fly without a feather.
All right, Dumbo, give me a showstopper.
Fly, Dumbo.
You've made me a child again.
Tim Burton is one of those filmmakers who, if you asked me randomly if I liked his output, I would probably respond with an emphatic no, but upon reflection, I actually like a lot of his recent work. I liked Frankenweenie a whole lot, I find Big Eyes to be pretty underrated, and while I wasn't entirely on board for Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, I was disappointed that we never saw any sequels to it. I think a lot of my gut instinct animosity towards Burton has come from his high-profile reimaginings like Planet of the Apes, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and especially Alice in Wonderland, which was easily the nadir of his whole career, but became his most successful movie financially. Now we have another Disney live-action remake with Dumbo, which, for the uninitiated, was Disney's third narrative feature film from 1941, and it isn't so much a movie with a plot as it is a meticulously crafted piece of film to wring emotions out of you. It's basically plotless, runs just over an hour long, and upon rewatching, didn't really do anything for me. However, while some Disney live-action remakes I've thoroughly embraced, like Jon Favreau's Jungle Book and Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella, Dumbo falls safely in the Alice in Wonderland and Maleficent mold of, what the hell were they thinking?
What a sight!
Chase 'em away! Chase 'em away! I'm afraid, need your aid, big elephants on parade!
This remake of Dumbo is an absolute mess that starts off shaky and literally gets worse and worse with every scene. Oddly enough, the movie being almost 2 hours long actually retells the story of the original Dumbo by the end of the first act, and then keeps going with what I can only imagine to be the untold sequel to Dumbo, which means this film is not only a bad remake of the original 1941 movie, but it's also a remake of the terrible straight-to-video sequel that we were mercifully spared from. For those who may not know, Dumbo tells the story of a baby elephant born in the circus who is shunned after having abnormally large ears, but once he realises he can use those ears to fly, basically lives happily ever after. However, in this case, happily ever after means the circus, owned by Danny DeVito, gets bought out by Michael Keaton's apocalyptic theme park setting, where Dumbo has to fly for big crowds whilst being taught by the children of Colin Farrell's Widower Cowboy. Unlike the original movie, this remake is committed to a more realistic aesthetic, and having the animals unable to speak means most of the heavy lifting is done by the human cast, all of which are devoid of character or interesting arcs. Michael Keaton is kind of fun as an offbeat Walt Disney meets Thomas Edison meets Donald Trump caricature, but don't be surprised if he's on the shortlist for Razzie Awards next year. This is the type of performance which kind of gets you those awards. But what's worse is the way that this guy is written, where he needs to make money for his successful business, and having Dumbo the elephant fly will help make him money, but he spends most of the third act going out of his way to do villainous things that prevent Dumbo from flying, just because the film needed a villain. The whole movie is also just really dour and downbeat, and not in a cathartic way like the original, but in a genuinely mean-spirited type of way. In the original film, Dumbo is made fun of by the circus crowd because when he tries to run, he trips over his ears, then a series of accidents brings down the circus tent. However, Dumbo just having big ears in this version before he even does anything results in him being shunned, and then the big top gets brought down when Dumbo's mother hears people making fun of her baby, and then she literally kills a guy. Seriously, Dumbo has a body count. Mrs. Jumbo killed a guy. The film is set just after World War I, where Colin Farrell's character lost an arm, his wife died, his kids are sad, and none of it amounts to anything. The sets are drab, everything has a grey filter over it, there's the massive disconnect of everyone calling Dumbo a freak despite the CGI team trying to make him as artificially adorable and cute as possible. I barely even notice the presence of the usually on-form Danny Elfman. Michael Buffer, of all people, shows up and shouts, "Let's get ready for Dumbo!" The way Dumbo and Eva Green rehearse their show and the way they actually perform it don't resemble each other. When Dumbo flies for the first time in Michael Keaton's circus, he does 2 or 3 laps around the ring before leaving, and then the audience are there demanding their money back because they were promised 5 laps, and they don't believe Dumbo can fly. What logic is this? What's the difference between 2 or 5 laps? Oh, the flying elephant only flew around twice, that's obviously a fake. Now if it flew around 5 times, now we're dealing with serious science. Oh yeah, this is a screenplay by Kruger, so not making any sort of sense is the name of the game here. And while the movie goes out of its way to avoid the racist depictions found in the original movie by making the circus troupe a multicultural haven, they don't actually have anything to do here. Seriously, the film is nearly twice as long as the original movie, has like tenfold the supporting cast, but somehow has less substance and less character. And that's the second time in a row these live-action remakes have fallen into that pitfall. Heck, one thing I expected Tim Burton to absolutely hit out of the park in Dumbo was the pink elephant sequence, and it's totally dead on arrival. Seriously, the single solitary thing even Tim Burton detractors expected him to get right in Dumbo falls with a louder thud than an actual elephant trying to fly. Now look, I don't want to be that guy who tries to decry the fairy tale and whimsical aspects of these movies, but when I'm watching Dumbo flying and I don't remotely believe it, I think something might have fundamentally gone wrong here. Dumbo has no sense of wonder, or awe, or whimsy. Instead, it's replaced by an omnipresent boredom and dourness. But I personally find it really disappointing that both this and Alice in Wonderland represent the bottom rung of an otherwise interesting and once exuberant director. I think 2019 might be the year that the Disney live-action movie bubble finally bursts, or Disney goes forward being much more selective with what they adapt. Either way, it's too late to save Dumbo, which I'm giving 1 star out of 5.
You can do it, Dumbo. Show 'em. Fly, Dumbo. Fly.
Trilbee, ta 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 Trilbee, ta 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 Trilbee, ta 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 Trilbee.